This constitutes a security hazard.
Super Space Theatre. Sounds cool, but what is it? Well, I'll tell you. In the 1980s / the late 70s as well, Star Wars mania gripped the world, and essentially to capitalize on the sudden popularity of science fiction, production companies far and wide were desperate to try and get a piece of the science fiction phenomena. And ITC were looking at their back catalogue and thinking, we have all these science fiction shows produced by Gerry Anderson. Maybe we can do something with those. And so there was also a need from American cable channels that were just starting up at the time to fill their airways with some kind of cheap content. So those factors combined to cause ITC to commission some compilation movies under the banner of Super Space Theatre. And the idea of these was to take existing episodes of Gerry Anderson series, which included Thunderbirds, Stingray, Captain Scarlet, Joe 90, UFO, and Space 1999, to take episodes of those series and combine them together to try and create movies. Yeah, that basically describes it. Now, there's a couple of interesting points about these movies. I have a lot of nostalgia for them, as do quite a few people who watched the Anderson shows in the 80s and 90s. The reason being that on VHS, the only way for a long time to get hold of certain episodes was by watching the compilation movies rather than having access to the actual episodes as they were broadcast. So if you wanted to watch, say, Thunderbirds Trapped in the Sky, the only way you could get it on home media on VHS was with the compilation film Thunderbirds to the Rescue. There was no other way of watching it. Now, that wouldn't have been a problem, except that for the purposes of the compilation movie, they made a number of changes to the episodes. They would cut out usually 5 or so minutes of material from each episode in order to make it fit all together into a movie. So they would cut scenes out. They would trim off the opening titles and closing titles and usually replace them with something completely different, something newly created, usually using the finest in 1980s computer graphics at the time, which was quite something. They would also add new music to the episodes. So they would go into the Barry Gray archive and just take any piece of music they could and fit it over the top of scenes where there was no music, which had gave it its own unique flavor, shall we say. And then they would do other things like adding special effects or even trying to re-edit certain things so that they told a different story. Anyway, I have today been asked by viewer Scott. Hello, Scott. He has asked me to rank the Super Space Theatre movies. So I'm going to give you my rundown of all of them. Now, I'm going to start by saying I haven't actually seen all of them in the first place. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll do my best. So basically, at the bottom of the list, kind of grouped together, I put all the Space 1999 compilation movies simply because I haven't seen them. I was lucky enough with Space 1999 because I didn't discover it until I was slightly older. All the episodes had come out on DVD by that point, which meant I didn't have to watch the compilation movies if I didn't want to. And I didn't want to, so I didn't. So I've never actually seen these, but here's my ranking based on what I understand about them and what I can ascertain. So the very bottom, I put Destination Moonbase Alpha, simply because it's a compilation of the Bringers of Wonder Part 1 and the Bringers of Wonder Part 2. Not a very sort of like it makes sense that those two episodes go together, obviously, but it's kind of like, you didn't really put too much effort into that. That said, the poster artwork is amazing. So got to give it credit for that. Next up, Cosmic Princess. This is compilation of the Metamorph and Space Warp, and the only reason why this is lower down is because they are season 2 episodes, and that's just not my favorite thing in the world. So I'm putting it down there for that reason. As I say, haven't seen it, but that's my assumption. Next up, Journey Through the Black Sun. Put this slightly higher just because I love the episode Black Sun, so I'm sure as a viewing experience, it's perfectly enjoyable for that reason. So got to give it points for Black Sun. Next up, so I'm putting at the top for Space 1999, I'm putting Alien Attack. Simply because the episode choice, Breakaway and War Games, 2 very, very good episodes. Also, I understand that they made some new scenes, not just re-edited some scenes, but they actually filmed some new material to go into this movie to try and sort of bridge the gap and try and explain what's going on, and just generally add a bit more to the experience of not just watching the episodes, but actually making it feel like a movie. That's really, really cool. I can't fault them for trying to do that. I guess there was a little bit of budget there, so they shot some new scenes. Yeah, that's definitely the one. If I had to watch any of those 4, I would definitely give Alien Attack a try first, because it has definitely piqued my curiosity, that's for sure. Now, next up, we're actually getting to the territory of compilations I have actually seen now. And I hate to do it, but I'm afraid Joe 90 has to go down towards the bottom there. The Amazing Adventures of Joe 90, which is a compilation of Most Special Agent, Splashdown, Attack of the Tiger, Arctic Adventure. Now, I don't have much nostalgia for this one because I, again, was able to watch Joe 90 with the full episodes later on when it came out on DVD. So I didn't actually see the compilation movie until much later when it came out on Blu-ray. They did a VHS rip and put it on the Blu-ray. So I've looked at that, and I mean, the choice of episodes is not that great. The fact that they've gone with Most Special Agent, which is about Joe being a fighter pilot, Splashdown, which is about Joe flying a plane, Attack of the Tiger, which is also about Joe being a fighter pilot, and then Arctic Adventure, which is totally different. It's just a weird collection of episodes. So, fine, but not the most amazing. So there we go. So that's The Amazing Adventures of Joe 90. Next up, I'm going to put Thunderbirds to the Rescue, which is a compilation of Trapped in the Sky from Thunderbirds and Operation Crash Dive. Now, obviously, those 2 episodes go together really, really well. It makes sense. They're both about the Fire Flash. In terms of the way they were put together, all they did was, when Operation Crash Dive starts, they put a caption up saying 6 months later, and that's it. Otherwise, that's just that, I'm like, could you have done a bit more, something a bit more creative to kind of link the 2 together? But no, I mean, I guess the 6 months later caption is fine. But the other thing I remember about Thunderbirds to the Rescue in particular was the additional music on that. They slapped music over every single moment, it felt like, and it just grates on you after a while. Also, I think it was one of the earlier ones, so the graphics are not up to much. Like, they didn't do a whole lot with the opening titles. I'm pretty sure it's just freeze frames over with orange text over the top. So it's not that exciting. But yeah, so there we go. There's Thunderbirds to the Rescue. Next up on my list is Invasion UFO, which is Identified, Computer Affair, Reflections in the Water, and short sections of Confetti Check AOK, ESP, and The Man Who Came Back. It's a really weird one, because rather than sort of showing whole episodes, they just sort of took chunks out of various ones to try and tell a complete story. So quite creative, something a little bit different, and I can't really fault them for that. But the main reason that I put Invasion UFO up there so high actually has nothing to do with it being UFO or the episode choice or anything like that. It's actually to do with the music. The opening music is a piece by a library music composer called Francis Monkman. And I have absolutely fallen in love with his music. I have a thing right now for 70s and 80s library music. using the synthesizers and all that sort of emerging technology at the time. And if you listen to, there's a Bruton Music Library album called Energism, which is basically Francis Monkman's music that ended up in Invasion UFO. I heartily recommend you go and listen to that album because it's really good fun. So go and listen to that. I certainly enjoy. I have that on in the background all the time. So there we go. That's why Invasion UFO is ranking slightly higher. Next up, I'm going with Revenge of the Mysterons from Mars. So this is the Captain Scarlet one, or one of the Captain Scarlets. And it features on it Shadow of Fear, Lunaville 7, Crater 101, and Dangerous Rendezvous. Now, 3 of those episodes go together really well. Lunaville 7, Crater 101, Dangerous Rendezvous, they all form a trilogy of episodes, which is about, finding a Mysteron complex on the moon, getting inside, taking the Mysteron power source, and the implications of that. So that's really good. Shadow of Fear is just kind of tacked on at the beginning in order to fill out the running time. And I mean, as episode choices go for that purpose, it's fine. But that's there. I really like the opening graphics. I like the extra narration that they've added for the Mysterons at the beginning. Controversial, I know. Like, it doesn't sound much like the original Mysterons, but hey, they did it a go. They started to get really creative with how they put these things together. So there you go. Revenge of the Mysterons from Mars would be my next pick. Then I'm going into the Stingray compilation movies, which I actually have on Blu-ray right here. And I'm actually going to pick Invaders from the Deep as my next choice. The reason for that is I like the choice of episodes, which are Hostages of the Deep, or Hostages of the Deep, Emergency Marineville, The Big Gun, and Deep Heat. All quite cinematic, epic episodes, all put together into this quite broad theme of other undersea aliens going to attack Marineville, or, in some way causing trouble for the Stingray crew. And the thing that's exciting about this one is they edited together a new scene at the beginning of the film, which, so basically they take various clips of Titan from throughout the series, and they take audio clips as well, and they try and mash it all together to try and create new lines of dialogue and stuff like that. And they tried so hard, but it doesn't quite work. But I have a lot of fondness for it, so I say fair enough for that. So yeah, that's why I'm picking Invaders from the Deep. Next up, I am going to go with The Incredible Voyage of Stingray. It's a double Blu-ray. Very nice. The Incredible Voyage of Stingray. The reason why I picked this one is definitely the episode choice is really, really strong. They go with the pilot episode, Plant of Doom, Countdown, and the Master Plan. And what that does is it gives you a continuous story about Marina and Titan, and about how she escapes from him and Titan tries to get her back as his slave, and all the trouble that they go through in relation to that. So it works as a kind of continuous story that way. The theme of the episode kind of ties together really quite well. So I got to give them credit for that. I also enjoy things like the opening. They've got this weird kind of computer thing that appears and shows the episode on that. It's like really kind of surreal and odd, but it works. It does work. So yeah, The Incredible Voyage of Stingray will be my next pick. I have quite a lot of fondness for that one, actually. And I should say the Stingray compilation movies, if you go onto my blog, securityhazard.net, and you head into the Stingray reviews and take a look at the Tales from Marineville article, in that article, I did all the sort of extra bits and pieces that exist for Stingray. So the audio episodes, the compilation movies, and the reunion party. I did all of those in one article, reviewing them in quite a lot of detail. So you get to see what I make of not only the compilation movies themselves, but also their HD re-releases, which that's a whole other topic we could go into. But next up, I am going into my top 3 now for Super Space Theatre compilations. So here we go. At number 3, it's Countdown to Disaster. which is a Thunderbirds compilation of Terror in New York City and Atlantic Inferno. Now, really epic episodes, probably some of the biggest disasters that International Rescue ever had to deal with. So it makes sense to put them both together in one movie. Otherwise, there isn't an awful lot that connects the two together. It sort of literally goes from the end of Terror in New York City just straight into Atlantic Inferno, with no fanfare or ceremony whatsoever. You suddenly go from a series 1 episode with its particular aesthetic to a series 2 episode which has a totally different aesthetic. Suddenly, the Tracy Lounge has been redesigned. It doesn't make any sense, but it just gets on with it. No mucking about. But the interesting thing and what I admire about Countdown to Disaster when I was thinking about this list was I talked about how they cut bits out of each episode. Well, I have to say, for Countdown to Disaster, they do a fairly good job of cutting out the unimportant stuff. Like when I was talking about that transition from Terror in New York City into Atlantic Inferno, what they skip over in that process is the very beginning of Atlantic Inferno, where Lady Penelope's blowing up a mountain in Australia. They cut that scene out because it doesn't serve the story. Now, as a purist, obviously I want the original episodes intact. I would rather they didn't cut anything out. But if you have to cut something out, you should cut something that isn't relevant to the story. So I appreciate them for taking care in doing that. So that's why I'm putting Countdown to Disaster up there. Oh, I also really enjoy the opening graphics with the countdown and the 3D illustrations of the Empire State Building and seascape look so 80s. So got to give them points for that. Number 2, and this is mostly for nostalgia, Thunderbirds in Outer Space. I am fairly sure that Thunderbirds in Outer Space is the first Thunderbirds that I ever saw. I remember very vividly having the VHS tape as a very young kid and watching it again and again and again and again. So much so that even today, when I watch the original versions of Sunprobe and Ricochet, which are the episodes that are included, when I watch the original version of those episodes, I am still taken aback when I see scenes in there that weren't included in the compilation movie. I still go, oh, wait, no, that's not meant to be there. Oh, wait, yes, it is. Wait, what? And of course, I've seen those original versions of the episodes many, many times since. And it's still, Thunderbirds in Outer Space is just so ingrained in my mind that one just really, I have a lot of fondness for that. So yeah, very, very much appreciate that. Also, thematically it works, putting the two sort of what I would consider the major Thunderbird 3 rescues in the whole series, putting those together in one movie, just that works for me. And then finally, the top of my list, I'm actually going with Captain Scarlet versus the Mysterons, which is a compilation of the pilot episode, Winged Assassin, Seek and Destroy, and Attack on Cloud Base. I love the opening music. I think that version of the Captain Scarlet theme is really enjoyable. I love the pink logo that they go with for that. I think that's really good fun. The choice of episodes, they're really, really strong episodes. I kind of like that the whole movie is interrupted partway through just so we can have a dogfight between the Angels and the Mysterons. Basically, that's the majority of Seek and Destroy in there. And then, of course, what we have to talk about is the ending, because Attack on Cloud Base, they changed the ending somewhat significantly, you could argue, because if you recall, the ending of Attack on Cloud Base is Symphony wakes up in the desert and it was all a dream. Spectrum wasn't destroyed, Cloud Base didn't fall out of the sky, nobody died, everything was fine, it was all a dream. And that is by far the most disappointing ending to possibly to anything ever. It is such an anticlimax. Now, the way they get around this in the compilation movie in Captain Scarlet versus the Mysterons, what they do is, instead of it all being a dream, the Mysterons intervene and there's this weird space pyramid thing that appears. And what they do is they reverse time They say, something along the lines of, "Oh, we've given you a demonstration of our powers. This is what we could do to you if we really wanted to, end this war of nerves here and now. We could just kill you, just straight out. But we're going to be merciful. This is just a demonstration of our powers. So they reverse time. But what that means is that it actually happened. It really, really happened. The Mysterons actually have the power to do this stuff. It isn't just a figment of Symphony's imagination. So, yes, it's a cop out, reversing time at the end. Obviously, that's a cop out, but it's a slightly more satisfying cop out. Now, again, as a purist, the original episode I would like left intact and not messed with. But if you've got to make changes and you want to do something creative, I think that's a noble effort. So for that reason, I put Captain Scarlet versus the Mysterons at the top. And that was my list. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you agreed with it. Let me know what your memories are of watching the Super Space Theatre movies on VHS, or possibly even they were broadcast on American sort of satellite cable TV, sort of in late night slots and things like that. So let me know what your memories are. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Security hazard negative.